This
This
is Phil
conference will
Reinhold.
now be recorded.
Yeah, thank you, Maureen. This is a presentation on trouble reporting in Kansas, in which most of you are pretty familiar with, but with our systems as they change, we might have a few tips that might be helpful for you. I know Scott addressed a variety of issues this morning with respect to trouble reporting, but Lori and I are going to go through a few things today that may be helpful for you with respect to who are you going to call. Here we go. Just one second here. Essentially, we're just going to talk about three types of things to report on today. Trouble reporting with the Vesta workstation, trouble reporting with the Rapid Deploy map display program, and then if you have an alley discrepancy on your 911 landline calls, how to report that. It's kind of interesting. We break it up slightly differently than last year because our mapping system is a much more sophisticated map system than we had in years past. In the years past, we just had Vesta Locate, which there was almost no options on the map program. So we're going to talk about the Rapid Deploy map program as a separate little unit. But essentially, the very first thing we're talking about is that if you have trouble with the Vesta console, this is a picture of a typical Vesta console. If about anything goes wrong with that, keyboard, mouse, anything quits working right, if you have a fiber cut going to your center and it takes down your primary, your backup line, that's all what we consider the main Vesta call taking platform that you need to put a trouble ticket in to AT&T 911. And the resolution center, which many of you probably used many times in the past, is the 1-866-722-3911. The AT&T Resolution Center is a call center. Typically, the calls go to Chicago. They're exclusively made up of AT&T managers, and all they do is handle calls from 911 centers across the country. So they're not going to get you confused with commercial accounts or anything else. So they pretty much know the ins and outs of 911 centers. The agents, once they get your call, they'll create a ticket number, EY01234 type of number, which you'll keep for your reference. When they get it, open a ticket, they're going to send a tech out to your site. That's one of the options. And now that you've got a hosted 911 platform, meaning the brains of the 911 systems that you're working out of are either in Topeka or in Wichita. Actually, they're in both because there's two sides to them. They can oftentimes, depending on what the trouble is, they can clear that trouble ticket that you called in for remotely, or maybe they send a tech out on site as well. It just kind of depends on the nature of the problem they're seeing. If it's a fiber cut, obviously it's a much more significant issue than just sending somebody out. But if it is a fiber cut or some major significant issue that takes your whole 911 center down, we're all in Kansas pretty much on ESINet now. 90% of the Kansas jurisdictions are. If you lose your 911 platform because of a fiber cut or for any event that the host equipment in Wichita and Topeka cannot see your system, the ESINet will automatically reroute your 911 calls to a designated backup. If you don't have a designated backup, the default is it'll reroute it to your admin lines. The thing about the admin lines that we don't like, sometimes, and we found it to happen a fair number of times, in fact, in the past few years, that if there's a major fiber cut, it may take down your admin lines as well. So it is highly recommended that you have a memorandum of agreement in place with your neighboring jurisdictions, so that if you lose connection to your PSAP, the ESINet can automatically route to another county if they're available. If they're not available, it can route to another county. And you ideally, I like to have a one of the three counties across the ladder line, so it actually goes to another host location. And the reason you care about that is if something happened to the host, we have hosts in the north part of the state and the south part of the state. If something happened to one of those hosts, we could still get your calls diverted to a partner PSAP on the southern part of the state or northern part of the state. You know, if you have trouble with getting into your Vesta console or need to get lost your user name or password or that type of thing, in the old days, you used to be able to have an administrator at your PSAP log in. In today's world, with the hosted platform that everybody's sharing, they pretty much utilize we utilize a form on the portal that you submit your request on the portal, and it'll go to an AT&T technician who will assign a username for you and password. Lori, you've had more experience with this type of thing. Do you want to speak to that a little bit on how that works, because you're more up to speed on the portal and how people access it and that type of thing, if you're available?
Yeah, I can do that. So with the Vesta, the AT&T Tiger team are the only ones that can access the server now. So if you need to make any changes to an existing account or create an account, you go to the portal, which is portal.kansas911.org, and that will, if you're an administrator, supervisor, you'll have an account on that portal. You'll go to the portal. You'll go to this at the heading at the top. It'll say DDS/Vesta. You'll log into that, and then you fill out this form. There are instructions there underneath the header. They're in the blue type, and you can open that up. It's a Word document, save it to your computer so you've got it to know how to fill this out. It's pretty self-explanatory, though, as you go along. As you hover over those fields, it'll give you hints and things that you need to do. We are trying to get all the PSAPs, well, we do have all the PSAPs now, where it starts out with the 4-digit code or 4-letter code. So, for example, with Allen County here, it's ALCO, and then you add whatever you need to at the end of that to create a username. So it could be, if I was your employee, it might be ALCOLAA, my initials, or ALCO, I had a number when I was in a PSAP, I was 9704, so that could be it. And then passwords, when you put that field in, it cannot have special characters. It has to be at least 8 characters long. You need to have some uppercase, lowercase. You can use numbers. Once you're done with all that, let's see, where we go. Oh, you have to put something in the notes field. Don't forget to do that. It can be as simple as we're changing their password or changing their name. Maybe someone got married, divorced. Once you're completely done with it, though, you're going to hit save, and then you're going to get an email showing you that you submitted that request. If you don't get an email, something does not go right, then you need to go back and check on that form. The AT&T Tiger team will then get that request. They'll go into the server and they will create that, whatever the update is, whether it's a new user, whether it's a change, or whether it's deactivating someone. Make sure you are deactivating those people, because if they go to another PSAP to work, they could technically log in as themselves from your PSAP with those credentials. I can only talk today. Once the AT&T Tiger team, though, gets that entered into the server, they go in and into the portal and put in their code, and then it'll send you a system-generated email that the update's been complete. Now the person can re-log in or log in for the first time, whatever the case may be. Depending on the workload, it could take minutes for the Tiger team to get that updated. It could take hours, or it could take a couple days. If it's taking more than a couple days, email me and we'll see if maybe they just missed it in their email. because I don't know about you right now, but I get a ton of emails every day, and sometimes these things get lost. So.
Lori, thank you. You know, one of the things that we found recently is that there's a maximum number of logins in the Vesta as it's currently configured today. And I think Scott and you're probably going to send a note out to make sure that if you have users that have left and they're not in the system anymore, to make sure and delete them out, because there's a capacity issue on the Vesta that we're bumping into at the moment. So anybody that's inactive, you know, we ought to get rid of those user IDs in there.
Good reminder.
We'll jump now to the Rapid Deploy Radius Plus map. And as you well know, for those of you that have been, well, everybody's been turned up on, I guess, it's a separate little mini computer running the map display. And so it's tied to the Vesta workstation with just like your CAD's tied to it. So it's relying on a little data feed from the Vesta to populate the map on the Rapid Deploy. So we want to talk just a little bit about calls not plotting on the map, and also we'll touch on you can't log into the Rapid Deploy application. How does that work? For calls not plotting on the map, we did something that was kind of probably a little more aggressive than it should have. We converted the everyone over to the Rapid Deploy map at the same time we converted to ESINet, with the exception of Sedgwick County. So many times you found that calls weren't getting over to the Rapid Deploy like they should have. There's many reasons for calls not plotting on a map, but and to my note here it says, while the reasons may be frustrating, some of them are normal, like non-initialized cell phones. You know, there's like 6.9% of the calls in Kansas come from phones that don't have services paid for them, and thus there's no phone number associated with it. There's no way to track that phone down or to locate it. And the way Rapid Deploy works, Rapid Deploy reaches in the alley feed where the data comes in on the 911 call and grabs that telephone number, pulls it back into the map program, sends it out to Rapid SOS, and pulls back whatever handset information is available, and we'll plot it that way. So if there's a break in any of those connections, Rapid Deploy map won't see it. There's other situations where cell carrier data doesn't flow through, and if you don't get information into the alley display screen from the cell carrier, you won't plot either. So, Lori, you found in the field and from going out and working with 911 centers that there's a couple of things that may have been problematic with respect to the Rapid Deploy map, right? With buffers and that type of thing filling up. Is that?
Yes.
And the fix to that is to refresh the map with that F5.
Well, yeah, if it's just not responding and everything's correct on the alley field, on the Annie and Alley screen, then just hitting that F5 or refresh, the little forward button, that can sometimes make it reactive and then plot on the map. And
then the way that normal Vesta system works is that they're all set across the state to do the same thing. After 30 seconds, it's going to rebid, meaning it's going to go back out to the cellular network and see if you got any more update information for me. And in 60 seconds, it's going to try it again, go out and rebid after 60 seconds. Anything that it pulls back from the cell carrier, it's going to plot on the Rapid Deploy map with a blue pin. Anything, and that's the cell carrier data that it's plotting on the map with a blue pin. The Rapid Deploy map updates every 10 seconds, goes to the Rapid SOS clearinghouse, sees what it can identify at handset coordinate information, and it's going to plot that with a red pin. So I always try to remember Rapid SOS, red pin, and with the R's and the R's and blue pen for the Vesta plots. So, and the rapid SOS pinging the handset. The Vesta doesn't ping the handset. It triangulates or tries to pull information in different fashions than rapid SOS. Here's a couple of pictures of alley screenshots that we've seen, good and bad. In the gray, there's two screenshots here. In the gray, the alley, the location information shows the callback number in the upper left here, time and date of the call, address of the tower, and that's on phase 1. When it gets phase 2, it's going to show that the location of the handset. Shows that it's a Verizon wireless. That means it's showing it went to a Verizon wireless tower. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a Verizon wireless handset, but it's a Verizon wireless tower that picked it up. PNE is the 316-511. Anytime you see 511s or 211s, that is a 10-digit number. Looks like a telephone number, but it references back to a cell tower phase. So when you know what that number is, the telephone companies can actually tell you what tower phase that came off of. And then, of course, it's got the latitude and longitude, confidence, and emergency responders. What we're having some trouble with, we're working through with Motorola right now and AT&T, is that some of the calls randomly, we haven't identified the why of it, but Motorola seems to think they've got the answer that they're going to be able to put out a new release to us soon. The callback number of the handset comes into the little red, there's a circle up here of the Vesta ribbon, but it doesn't get down into the alley location of the alley field of the Vesta, which means that information that goes to the rapid locate comes out of that alley field. And that means if it doesn't have a number in there, the Vesta or the rapid deploy is not going to be able to plot it. So when you see a call come in and it seems a little bit peculiar, make sure, take a look at the alley screen to make sure that the normal fields are populated. Is there a callback number in the left screen, upper left-hand corner? And the ESN field, since we're on ESINet now, that field's always blank. In some release, I'm sure they'll remove the ESN number altogether because we're not doing things like we used to in the old days. The phase 1 will show up, and after it gets an updated alley feed, it'll show phase 2. Phase 1 number typically shows the tower address and callback number. And of course, the wireless calls should transition to wireless phase 2. The telephone company tower provider should always appear. The PNE should appear. Whether it's landline, wireless, or VoIP, that identification information should show up in the screen too to help you identify what type of a handset that the individuals are calling from. X and Y should populate for all calls, the tower address typically for wireless. Landline calls typically also show the address of the 911 from the 911 database. That means whatever that address was when that telephone subscriber ordered the phone service from the telephone provider, they gave an address for it. That address is validated against what we call a master street address guide, and that went into our 911 database. That's what you should be seeing on your screen if all worked right. There's another couple of fields for wireless, confidence and uncertainty. I don't know, we haven't used those too much, but I don't think they always populate. But the confidence is expressed as a percentage, and the higher percentage, the better the network feels confidence of the locate. And uncertainty is expressed in meters. So if it says it's 10 meters off, then you know you're probably about 30 feet or so away, based upon the confidence interval of 90%. That means it's a pretty good call. And I don't know, those are inconsistent with respect to how many of those fields are filled in. But if you do get them filled in and they're high confidence, you know you've probably got a pretty good locate. Here is another more close-up picture of an alley display screen on your Vesta that shows the callback number up here in this Vesta ribbon, but didn't find its way down here to the alley screen. In such case, we're encouraging people to put in trouble tickets on that and send them to the 911 Resolution Center so we can get those checked out. One thing about it, when you think there's a problem with a call and a call plot and call locate, one of the things we kind of recommend is, if you have time, you might gather a little data, see if the problem can be duplicated. Go ahead and make a call from your admin line, see if it plots right. Call from a wireless phone, see if that plots right. And if it does, it gives you a clue that maybe it was just an errant call, but a non-initialized cell phone or something that was coming into you that didn't have all the data to it. But if you can reproduce it, or if you think it is a problem, take that information. It's most ideal to take a picture of it if you can, of the Vesta screen and the rapid deploy screen. If you look on these alley display screens and your Vesta, it will show the time of the call. It shows you whatever information you're seeing. It makes it a perfect bunch of data for you to be able to turn information into the Res Center, and they will have everything that they need to track that call down and see what the problem was. And of course, it's 1-866-722-3911. It should be on your displays of all of your computers and Kansas hosted 911 equipment. So the Res Center, once you call in, they'll give you a ticket. They always start with an EY0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever the last 4 digits are. Like I suggested, nice to take a picture of it. Screenshot tells all the relevant information. There was an added thing that we suggested from a council perspective that's awfully nice. If you have some visual information to send to the Res Center, you make the call to the Res Center on a phone line. But if you got visual information, oftentimes that can help out tremendously in troubleshooting. Got a picture of the call, send that to that email address, ksng911@rescenter@googlegroups.com. What that does, that sends, and make sure and put the ticket number in that email. That goes to the Res Center, but it also goes to Scott Eckberg, Lori, myself, and the 911 Tiger Team people. When we get that, like, I will take a look at it, see if there's any added information I can pull up to support what troubleshooting may need to be done. Lori does the same, Scott kind of does the same, and then we'll bounce it over for additional review. What works out nice as well, the Tiger Team, since there's 3 in the north and 3 in the south part of the state, those folks get that information coming into them very quickly as well. That just adds to the visibility to help facilitate problem resolution. So it's a really a nice enhancement to try to speed up trouble resolution. Nothing hardly beats a picture too. If you got a picture to send in for verifying what the trouble was that you saw. So once the Res Center gets a ticket, what's their next course of action? They review the ticket, the issue, give it to the AT&T network team, or they may refer it to Rapid Deploy. They do a certain level of triage in the Res Center. They may dispatch a AT&T field technician, or there are some things that the PSAP administrator has the ability to correct or get into, such as passwords or that type of thing. So the depending on what the issue is, if it's a hardware and network issues, the Res Center manager may engage the AT&T Managed Services Support Center. If it's an AVPN network issue, AVPN is the AT&T Virtual Private Network. That's what your main fiber feeds your center in or on. The Resolution Center will garner the right people in AT&T land to get that fixed. If it's determined that it's a rapid deploy issue, the Res Center will engage rapid deploy. So they'll figure out which direction they need to take it to resolve the problem. One of the things early on, I don't know that we're having such trouble now, but getting logged onto the rapid deploy radius plus map program seemed to be problematic in the beginning. And Lori, that was another thing that you had worked, I think, quite a lot on, trying to assist in getting folks to be able to get on. You want to speak to what you were seeing in the field on that and how that has worked out and what's going on there?
Yeah, we'd had some people getting logged out of the system and they couldn't get logged back in. It's set up to where if you try 6 times on the 6th try or the 7th try, I'm not sure which one, but one of those, either 6th or 7th, that it would lock you out. And the only way to be able to reset your password then or get a new link would be for a supervisor to go in on the admin side and then reset your account. So there's actually, right now, if you go in and look at the admin side, you only see the option to save or disable someone's account. But there would be a third option if they've locked themselves out. There should be an administrator at every PSAP so that you can do that yourself. If they're not there, however, or if somebody's, if you don't know who that person is, you can always just send that email directly to the KSNG 911 Res Center, or as always, you can call me, text me, and I can try and log into your PSAP and reset the account. It's real simple to do. Everybody should have an admin person, but I know that they're not available 24/7 all the time. So if you need some help with that, we can attempt to help you if you don't have someone there to do it.
Thanks, Lori. One thing about it, Rapid Deploy is always working to try to refine their systems as well. If there's better ways to do things, we're taking suggestions to them all the time, and if they can implement, they will. So they've been very, very good to work with. So that pretty much concludes our little talk on Rapid Deploy. I was going to touch briefly on misroutes and alley discrepancy reports, and this mostly has to do with landline type of issues. Misroutes, calls it, what is a misroute? 911 call that goes to the wrong PSAP. This is Sherry Massey had developed this little slide presentation, but I thought it was pretty good and worth reiterating, because landline calls seem to be kind of still problematic. We've gone on to ESINet. We've gone on to one of the most sophisticated 911 call management platforms in the country, and yet if there's bad information in the 911 database on a landline call, it doesn't matter if you've gotten more sophisticated, that poor information will still follow. So what is a misroute? Calls it with the wrong PSAP. Call takers might get a name and location, but nothing else on the call. That's because our 911 database doesn't have any information in it, and it needs to. The call can be a landline, VoIP, or wireless. The question is, how do you fix it? Making the fallback position more intelligent. We're going to have to identify and clean up those records that are out there that don't have good information against it. Meaning, you may have, say you have whatever number of records in your 911 database. If in fact there's 5% of them that don't have an address, you're going to get a misroute and bad no alley information when it comes into your 911 center. But if it does, we need to get it corrected. So her message here is cleaning up misrouted records reporting misroutes to AT&T equals the alley discrepancy report, often called an AD. This is merely a method of grabbing the information that you see that came into your 911 system on your alley display of your Vesta, knowing that that address is wrong, and having a way to report it. So if no alley came through on a particular phone number, you know it's a landline number, you know it's a problem. You know every time that they call into your 911 center, it won't have an address in it, so it needs to be fixed. So when the address doesn't come through, or when the caller says they moved to another address and what the telephone record is displaying isn't updated, that's what we call an alley discrepancy and needs to be adjusted or corrected. There's some buttons on your Vesta that you probably never even hardly paid any attention to, but if in fact a landline call comes in and it shows no information for alley display or it's wrong, you can hit this button called incorrect location, and it will actually print that call information. It'll save it and click it and put it into a file that your administrator can pull out. And since it puts in there just the relevant information of what is wrong, and you can also do a print alley too and print it in the back room, so you can go back, pull that information out, and create an alley discrepancy report, a trouble report. The type of information you need to report one of those calls that come in with no location information is an anti-alley trouble report. This is merely a report or a piece of paper that you can get from the council website that shows you the information that you will need to submit an alley discrepancy report. Generally speaking, it's the very basic stuff that you would expect: name, address, tower information, all that your alley screen shows. And how do you submit them? You submit them through the AT&T's website called 911net. And I don't know how many of you use 911net. Oftentimes you use a GIS company that kind of maintains your MSAG and all your data, and you've given that capability to them. If you recognize this little token here, this little white token is the access security device that allow you to go onto the 911net site, AT&T 911net site, log in with your passcode, and then put this token information in to make sure that you've got a secured access to it. And then you're in to the AT&T website to report the discrepancy that you saw. Essentially, the website gives you a view such as you're seeing right here. You can query the number that came into your system, so you can plug it into this site, try to find it and locate it in there. Once you locate it, you can fill in this alley discrepancy report. If you cannot find it, if you can't find the number, you can just fill the fields in here and submit it to AT&T data integrity clerks. This site also gives you the ability to see what other, if you've submitted these alley DRs before, it'll give you a list of the ones you've submitted prior to. The database integrity unit, in Kansas, we're fortunate to have a lady that's pretty much assigned to us. And she works all of these air conditions. What she'll do is see whatever information that you send in. For her, it's like a big game of Clue. She'll look at the numbers. She can identify what telephone company that those numbers are associated with. She'll go to the telephone companies and say, hey, look, I've got this telephone number. I've looked it up. It came in on this particular time, and it doesn't have any address information in our 911 database. She'll discern all that. She will ask that telephone company to please get the appropriate address information run down and updated to the 911 database, and she will stay on that until it's fixed. And that's the beauty of submitting this information through the AT&T 911 IM website. It'll assure that you get those telephone numbers corrected in the 911 database. If you don't get them corrected, the landline calls will continue to come in with no location information on it. So that pretty much covers what we call the alley discrepancy reports for 911 calls that don't have any location information on it. Gives you a little bit more information on the rapid deploy mapping system, how it kind of works, how to report it to the 911 Resolution Center, and Vesta issues report to the 911 Resolution Center. Most all troubles go through the 911 Resolution Center, with the exception of alley discrepancy reports. With that said, does anybody have any questions? We've got time for whatever questions you'd like to go through, and at this point, for Lori and I.
There was some in the chat that I answered as you were going along there, Phil, but I don't know if you want to add those so everybody, in case people weren't looking in chat.
Oh, yeah. I'll just go back to the top here. Nathan Gentry, is there a way to up the bandwidth that the map has to work with? Currently, ours is locked at 1.5, which is extremely slow. This causes the map to lock up if you have too many layers being selected. And Nathan Gentry again said, can it get its internet feed from our internal network at faster speeds? And Laura, you responded, they are looking at changing the bandwidth. What piece after you add? Nathan says Mitchell County. With us being in the basement, the antenna that they put in the radio room is blocked by a lot of cinder block steel. This makes us having a low signal strength, and we have only one tower in town. I'll let the team know and see what they can do. Laura, you said that, and they are actively looking at bandwidth as well as a few other things to help speed things up. Yes, and in addition to that, the DASC group with the GIS, they're also looking at ways to make those queries more efficient. Because right now, there's quite a few things happening in the background with Rapid Deploy, and they've got some ideas on how to create some greater efficiencies to help with the speed. But Nathan, to your question, yeah, we're looking at how to manage the bandwidth on that, how to do a better job of it, maybe to be sending both Rapid Deploy and your voice inbound on the same fiber feed coming in, and using the LTE for backup purposes only. Let's see. We have another question here. Our mapping freezes up all the time. We are logging out after each shift. Seems like, especially abandoned calls. With abandoned calls, I'll try to initiate a text. When I try to initiate a text, it freezes. Laura, your response was, are you closing your browser as well? Response is, yeah, we're closing it. So my question to that on the map freezing up all the time, what PSAP did you say you were from there? RACO?
That's Rollins.
Oh, Rollins.
I'm guessing it's a bandwidth issue there.
I'm guessing it probably could be a bandwidth issue as well. And so we need to look at that. Ought to put a trouble ticket in on it so we have a log of that. And that way they can formally take a look at that and see if there's a bandwidth thing that they need to modify on that and do something different out there at Rollins if you can. Let's see, more questions. Deb Luthi, we've stopped logging out every shift and don't seem to have as much trouble with it.
I was a little shocked by that one.
What is that, Lori?
I was a little shocked by that one, that they're not having as much trouble since they don't log out, because it doesn't clear the cache.
So apparently they must be getting the cache cleared other ways though, right? Or the cache isn't presenting a problem as it has in some PSAPs. Is that the way you would see that, Laura?
Calls, I don't know.
Huh. And then Luke Blankenship said, I joined late and this may not be the correct forum, but a complaint I often receive from the staff regarding rapid deploy is that the map auto resets and focuses on most current location updates. For example, if the dispatcher zooms out of their map to get a better view of the breadcrumbs or to see a wider area, when a new alley update comes in, the map reverts to the view that the new update. This can be very frustrating when we're dealing with an active call and need the map. Is there any way to change that automatic center zoom? Laura, you responded, they're working on this. They were hoping to have an update out by the end of the year, but maybe first quarter of next. Brooks, who is with Rapid Deploy, will hopefully have an update for us next week. Yeah, you know, it's funny that when Rapid Deploy put the product out, they thought that was a benefit probably to everyone, you know, but as we've deployed this in Kansas, it's frustrating for folks in Kansas, and so they're looking to rework that program, and we're excited to get it reworked because many people have that similar complaint. So appreciate you bringing that up, Luke. Okay, Rollins County, thank you. Deb, you mentioned another thing, not sure if this is where to ask, but can we have the house number to be put over the address? The house number put, Deb, is that in the alley screen that on the Vesta?
No, Phil, what it is, it's on the mapping, and I don't know if this is the right place to be asking it, where the house number, the property owner name will be over the top of the house number, and we can't see the house number.
Oh, okay. Lori, have you seen that in the field too?
Well, I'm not sure. I probably have, and just it didn't bother me because I wasn't the one taking the phone call. So with that, I'm not sure. It's probably the Zoom
curious
level.
if that house number could be over the top of the property owner instead of the other way around. But maybe it's, I don't know. I don't know if this is the right place to ask that. So.
Yeah, but I tell you, it's a good place to ask. Would you mind maybe just taking a picture of that, of what you're seeing, and email it to me, or Lori, and then with what you think would be better, because that sounds like a kind of a system-wide request that would probably be good for everyone.
Okay.
And so right now, I would expect it's hard-coded, so there's no way to adjust it. But if that's something that makes sense for everyone, we want to definitely put that on Rapid Deploy's plate and ask them to take a look at it.
Okay, Lori, can I just text it to your phone number?
Yes, you can. I was just going to suggest that.
Okay, I'll do that after a bit. Thanks.
Thank you for the question. And Catherine Winter says it gets in the way. Catherine's just responded. It gets in the way, but when you have zoomed out gets in the way, but you zoomed out or zoomed further in, I guess. It maybe it's the way you zoom it, Catherine, is what you're thinking is the way it may be better. And Brandy had mentioned I had to shut off the parcel layer so it would stop doing that. Okay. So it sounds like everybody is pretty familiar with the issue, and there are different ways of kind of working around it or So shutting off the parcel layer is what looks like it may make it work better, according to Brandy Grassel.
Hi, Phil. We've got about 10 minutes left for this session, so I just wanted to give you the 10-minute warning.
Oh, thank you, Maureen.
You bet.
Thank you. And Catherine Winter said, yeah, you can zoom in all the way and you can see the numbers. Okay. So it's zooming back and forth. The zooming thing, what I like to think that Rapid Deploy can give everybody more control over some of those things, so you can get what you want. But certainly, I know that the one issue of automatically zooming in, every time a locate comes in and changing the map screen, that's something that really needs to be addressed. Any other questions, anyone, that we can try to answer while we're on the call? So anything's a fair question on this. We may not have the right answers, but we'll take them and try to get the right answer. Well, we might give you a little bit of time back then. If we don't have any other questions, I'd say we'll conclude the call. I'd like to thank everybody for joining on this call today, and I hope you got a little something out of it. Feel free to always contact Lori or I or anyone on the team if you have questions, and we'll try to get things run down for you. Everybody, have a great week. Maureen, thank you for setting it up for us.
You bet. You have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.